What you are not conscious of will control your life, and you will call it fate. This morning, you begin not just a meditation, but a transformation. You are about to journey inward, to the depths of the mind where success is no longer an external pursuit, but an internal alignment. Close your eyes, breathe in deeply, and exhale the identity you were told to become. Today, we don't chase success, we become it. Behind the veil of everyday awareness lies a realm untouched by noise, a vast, silent territory where images speak louder than words and symbols carry the weight of truths we have long forgotten. This is the subconscious, not a chaotic basement of the mind as some imagine it, but a rich, fertile soil where the seeds of transformation lie dormant, waiting only for the warmth of conscious attention to awaken. Most people drift across the surface of life, pulled by habits, by the collective voice of society, by inherited beliefs never questioned. Yet beneath all of this, beneath the chatter of the ego and the constructed self, there is a deeper intelligence, older than language, deeper than thought. To descend into the subconscious is not to escape life, but to face it fully. It is to turn inward toward the mirror hidden in darkness. In this descent, you do not find monsters. You find pieces of yourself, forgotten, suppressed, misunderstood. The fear we associate with this inward journey is not the fear of danger, but the fear of truth, the fear of facing what we have denied. For what we repress does not die. It gathers strength in the shadow and influences us in silence. The subconscious is not against you. It is a waiting partner, aching to be seen. Breathe, and as you exhale, imagine that breath falling gently down a staircase, each step taking you further inward into a place where the outer world dissolves and the inner symbols rise. See the images emerge: a door, an animal, a child, a flame. Do not analyze them. Feel them. This is the language of the subconscious. It speaks in what Jung called archetypes, universal images that are not created by us, but which form the structure of how we experience life itself. You do not invent them. You discover them, like fossils of the soul. Here, success is not a destination, but a state of energetic coherence with your deeper self. Confidence is not an act. It is a return to what was always yours, but covered in layers of shame, rejection, doubt. And so, in this silence, you remember the times you were told to be smaller, to hide your voice, to dim your light, and you witness now, with clarity, that these were not truths, but echoes of someone else's fear. The subconscious holds not just wounds, but wisdom. It is the guardian of your authenticity. Allow the descent. Each breath brings you lower, not into darkness, but into depth, into the origin of your desire, your vision, your calling, the place where what you long for is not separate from what you already are. The seed does not seek the tree. It remembers that it already carries it. And so do you. Your potential is not an achievement. It is a reunion. Confidence is not thunder. It is not loud declarations or a perfectly rehearsed persona. True confidence is quiet, steady, and born from within. It emerges not when we have removed all uncertainty, But when we have made peace with it, the confident individual is not one who knows everything, but one who has ceased to fear the unknown. Confidence, in its truest form, is the result of a deep alignment between who we are and how we act. It arises when the outer expression is no longer at war with the inner truth. Most people mistake confidence for performance. They think it is something you wear like armor, something to protect against criticism or failure. But real confidence is not a mask. It is a homecoming. It begins the moment you stop trying to be someone else and start remembering who you've always been beneath the masks. You are not here to perform a role. You are here to become whole, to integrate, not impersonate. Within you, a dialogue is always unfolding. One voice encourages you, pulls you forward, speaks with the calm assurance of the self that knows. The other whispers doubt, sometimes in your voice, sometimes in the voice of a parent, a teacher, a world that told you, not yet, not good enough, not worthy. This inner conversation shapes the way you walk into rooms, take up space, speak your truth, or hold back. And until you bring this dialogue into the light of consciousness, you will remain ruled by the one you do not hear. Confidence is not the absence of that doubting voice. It is the presence of a deeper voice that stands taller, one that says, even if I fail, I am still worthy. Even if I tremble, I will speak. Even if I am rejected, I will not reject myself. This is the voice of individuation, the process of becoming who you are meant to be, not by addition, but by excavation, by peeling back layers of persona and arriving at the core. When you begin to listen deeply, you discover that confidence is not something to chase. It is something to uncover. It has always been there, buried beneath the rubble of comparison, criticism, and self-abandonment. The child in you knew it well. Before the world told you how to walk, how to dress, how to behave, you simply were. Your presence was enough. Your curiosity was pure. Your joy was unapologetic. That child still lives in you, waiting for permission to return. To trust yourself is to say yes to that inner child again. To look in the mirror and no longer ask, am I enough? But rather declare, I am whole, and I have always been. Confidence is the sacred act of reclaiming yourself. Not just your strengths, but your shadows too. Because the person who has looked into their darkness and did not turn away cannot be shaken by the world. They have found something stronger than approval. They have found inner truth. There is no light without shadow, and there is no success, no true, lasting, soul-aligned success, without facing the parts of ourselves we were taught to deny. The shadow is not some distant demon. It is us. It is the traits we disowned, the emotions we buried, the impulses we judged. Every time we said, I must not feel that, or I must not be that, we exiled a part of our humanity into the dark. But these parts do not vanish. They wait. They wait for a moment of weakness, or a trigger, or a dream to remind us. They are still here, and they long to be seen. The pursuit of success without shadow integration is like building a house on fractured ground. It may rise high, but it will always feel hollow. It will never quite satisfy, because the foundation is not whole. You can amass wealth, recognition, achievement, and still be haunted by the quiet inner voice that asks, "But what part of you did you abandon to get here?" The unintegrated shadow becomes the hidden cost of ambition, and that cost is always self-betrayal. But when you turn toward your shadow, not as an enemy, but as a teacher, you reclaim what is rightfully yours. The anger you suppressed may become your boundary. The envy you denied may reveal your deeper desire. The fear you buried may point to a part of you that is ready to grow. In this way, the shadow does not oppose success. It sharpens it. It deepens it. It makes it human. The process is not comfortable. Shadow integration demands radical honesty. It asks you to look into yourself and say, "Here is the part of me that manipulates, that envies, that judges, that hides." But the moment you name it, you weaken its grip. Because what we make conscious, we can choose to work with. What we leave unconscious works through us in silence. Success becomes sacred when it is built with all parts of the self, not just the polished and presentable ones. The world does not need another perfect mask. It needs the courage of people who have met their darkness and returned with compassion. This is the archetype of the wounded healer, not someone who is flawless, but someone who has suffered and chosen to turn that suffering into wisdom. Every shadow holds a gift. The deeper the wound, the greater the potential. This is not idealism. It is the alchemy of the soul. Gold is not created by adding more shine. It is created by enduring the fire. And so it is with you. The parts you feared would destroy you may, in fact, be the very parts that unlock your strength. Integration is not about taming the wild. It is about giving it a role, a voice, a place at the table. When you stop running from the shadow, you stop running from yourself. And in that stillness, you find something more powerful than success. You find peace. And peace is the ground upon which true success can finally grow. Each morning is a threshold, a quiet, sacred moment where you stand between two worlds, the realm of dreams and the waking life. It is not merely the beginning of a day. It is the reemergence of the self. In these first minutes after waking, the psyche is still porous, still open to suggestion, still carrying the symbols and whispers of the unconscious. It is in this liminal space, before the mind is crowded by tasks and obligations, that the soul can be heard most clearly. And if you listen, truly listen, it will tell you who you are beneath the noise of who you're expected to be. A ritual is not routine. A ritual is a conscious act, filled with intention. It is symbolic. It carries the weight of meaning. When you begin your day with ritual, you do not simply prepare for the world. You remember yourself in it. You return to center, to origin, to the source of your inner authority. Most people rush into the day as if being chased. They scroll, they react, they fall into momentum. But when you pause and create sacred space, you reclaim the day as yours, not as something to survive, but as something to shape. Begin with silence. Before the world makes demands of you, sit in presence. Let the breath be your anchor, not to escape thought, but to observe it. See what rises. See what stories your ego begins to tell. And then, Slowly invite the deeper voice, the one that does not panic, the one that knows. This voice does not shout. It waits for your stillness. And in that stillness, it reminds you that you're not here to play a part. You're here to be whole. When you speak your affirmations, do not merely recite them. Feel them. Speak as if they are ancient truths being spoken back into the bones. When you say, I act with purpose, let your body remember what that feels like. When you say, I walk with confidence, let your shadow and your light both step forward. A true affirmation is not a command. It is a recognition. It is the soul nodding back at you, saying, yes, that is who I am. The alignment you seek in life does not begin with a to-do list. It begins with inner coherence, when thought, feeling, and action move as one. The morning ritual is the space where you return to this inner structure. You do not chase balance, you restore it. You gather the scattered pieces of yourself and say, come, let us walk together today. Carl Jung said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate. In the quiet of morning, you are offered the chance to do just that, to make the unconscious conscious, to choose alignment over reaction, to live from essence rather than imitation. This is not just a spiritual habit. It is a psychological necessity for the individual who seeks to live fully, authentically, and awake. The subconscious mind is not a passive vault buried in the depths of the psyche. It is a living, breathing undercurrent that shapes every thought, every choice, every moment of your becoming. It is the silent architect of your reality, the invisible hand that writes the script before the conscious mind reads the lines. And yet, most people live as strangers to this force, unaware that their actions, their patterns, their very sense of self are often not freely chosen, but silently inherited from childhood wounds, ancestral echoes, cultural conditioning. What is not made conscious continues to live in shadow, and what lives in shadow pulls the strings of your life with quiet insistence. You may call it luck, destiny, self-sabotage, or even divine timing, but beneath these names lives the same truth. The subconscious is always speaking. The question is, are you listening? To unlock the subconscious is not to gain power over something dark or dangerous. It is to recover the very essence of who you are. Imagine, if you will, a vast inner library filled with memories, instincts, symbols, fears, and forgotten dreams, all cataloged not by logic, but by emotion and experience. Some of these are yours. Others were given to you by your parents, your ancestors, your culture. You did not choose most of what was placed on these shelves, and yet you live as if these volumes define the limits of your possibility. To become truly free is not to burn down this library, but to walk through it with a lantern, to read its stories with fresh eyes, and to decide which truths you will keep and which you will finally release. Success, as it is often defined, is external, a position, an achievement, a possession. But real success is not about accumulation. It is about alignment. The person who achieves but remains fractured, unintegrated, lost within their own inner chaos, is not successful. They are simply exhausted. The one who aligns their conscious goals with their subconscious truths moves with a kind of power that cannot be faked. They do not push through life. They are pulled by something deeper, by clarity, by resonance, by an inner compass that does not wobble with every passing storm. This is the foundation upon which lasting success is built. When you speak affirmations each morning, when you meditate with intention, when you enter silence, not just for peace, but for discovery, you are planting seeds in the subconscious. You are giving new instructions to a mind that has been running the same script for years, sometimes decades. But make no mistake, the subconscious does not respond to words alone. It responds to emotion, to imagery, to ritual. It is the language of dreams, of myth, of archetype. You cannot argue your way into change. You must feel your way into it. You must speak not just to your thoughts, but to your inner child, your hidden wounds, your sacred desires. You must descend courageously into the layers beneath language and offer your truest self a place to return home. The journey into the subconscious is a return to wholeness. There is no transformation without it. For what you suppress becomes your limitation, and what you face becomes your liberation. Jung spoke often of the self, not the ego, not the persona, but the self with a capital S, the totality of who you are, both known and unknown. This self is not discovered through striving, but through integration, and integration cannot happen on the surface. It requires depth. It requires honesty. It requires the humility to say, I do not fully know myself yet, but I am willing to learn. Imagine waking each morning and entering into this sacred work, not as a task, but as a devotion. You sit in stillness, not because it is trendy, but because you know that beneath your thoughts lives a voice you've neglected for far too long. You breathe, not as a technique, but as a return to your own body, your own soul. You speak affirmations not to convince yourself of a lie, but to remind yourself of a truth that fear once made you forget. And with each repetition, each visualization, each moment of still presence, you rewire the pathways within. You lay down new tracks in the field of the subconscious. You become the gardener of your own inner world. And over time, something subtle yet profound begins to shift. You stop reacting. You begin responding. You stop seeking approval. You begin trusting your intuition. You stop fearing failure. You begin moving toward purpose. Not with urgency, but with certainty. Because when the subconscious is aligned with the conscious, there is no inner conflict. There is coherence. And from that coherence arises a kind of confidence that no external force can provide or take away. The subconscious mind is not your enemy. It is your untapped ally. It has been listening all along, storing your pain, your patterns, your possibilities. All it needs is your attention, not superficial attention, but deep, reverent, sustained attention. The kind of attention that says, I am ready to meet myself, fully, no matter what I find. That is the doorway to transformation. That is the beginning of true success. Not just success that is seen, but success that is felt in the soul, lived in the body, and aligned with the truth of who you really are. Confidence is often misunderstood as a fixed trait, something you either possess or lack, as though it were gifted at birth or stolen by circumstance. But true confidence is not a performance. It is a process of becoming. It is the unfolding of the self through conscious engagement with the inner world. It is born not from the absence of fear, but from a relationship with fear so intimate that it no longer dominates your decisions. Real confidence emerges not when we are certain of the outcome, but when we are anchored in the deeper truth that we can face whatever arises. It is not the voice that says, "I will not fall," but the voice that says, "Even if I fall, I will rise again, and I will know myself more deeply because of it." At the root of this transformation is dialogue, an inner conversation between the parts of us that believe and the parts of us that doubt, between the conscious ego, which strives and fears, and the unconscious self, which remembers and reveals. Each morning, when you open your eyes, this dialogue begins again. Some days, the voice of self-doubt is louder. It whispers with the authority of memory, the memory of past failures, rejections, wounds. It speaks in the language of shoulds and shouldn'ts, of comparisons and criticisms. But beneath that voice is another, a quieter one, more ancient and enduring. It does not shout. It does not argue. It waits for you to remember it. This voice is the voice of the authentic self, not the self that performs to be loved, but the self that is love, inherently. This voice does not ask for proof. It knows. It has always known. It carries the wisdom of your experiences, the resilience of your trials, the courage of your ancestors, and it speaks in the form of intuition, subtle yet clear. Confidence begins when you choose to listen to this voice, not as an ideal, but as a guide. But to hear it, you must become still. You must create the space each day where the noise of expectation and external validation quiets, even for a few sacred minutes. Meditation is not merely relaxation, it is confrontation. You sit, and in that silence, the voices rise, the ones that say, "You are not enough," the ones that echo old shames. Do not resist them, witness them. They are fragments of your story. They once protected you, tried to keep you safe from pain or rejection, but now they must be met with understanding, not obedience. They are not truths. They are patterns, and patterns can be rewritten. In this inner landscape, confidence is not taught, it is remembered. It is the return to a knowing that existed long before you were told to be someone else, before you were molded by institutions and roles. There was a time, perhaps in early childhood, perhaps in dreams, when you simply existed, unafraid of your voice, unapologetic in your curiosity. That spark still lives within you. It has not died. It has only been buried beneath layers of adaptation. The task is not to invent a new self, but to uncover the one who was always there, quietly waiting. To do this, you must speak, not to others, but to yourself. You must affirm, not with empty phrases, but with language that comes from soul. When you say, "I am capable," say it as though you are speaking to the very first version of yourself, the child, the inner being, the spark that once looked at the world without armor. Say it with the emotion of someone reclaiming sacred ground. The subconscious does not respond to words it does not believe. It responds to words you feel as true. So feel them. Let your voice tremble if it must. Truth often comes wrapped in vulnerability. And then move. Do something. Act. Action is the anchor of confidence, not because action proves your worth, but because through action, you experience your own capacity. You meet your edges and stretch them. You try, and in the trying, you learn that you can survive rejection, imperfection, discomfort. Confidence is never built in theory. It is forged in participation. You walk into the world with the scars of your past visible, not hidden, and you say, "This is me, not perfect, but present," and that is enough. Carl Jung taught that individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires that we face the parts of ourselves we would rather ignore. And this includes the part of us that doubts, that fears exposure, that shrinks when called to expand. Confidence is not the eradication of this part. It is the integration of it. You do not kill the inner critic. You listen to it, you understand its origin, and then you place it beside you, no longer behind the wheel. You say, "I see you. I know why you're here, but I no longer need you to lead." The most powerful individuals are not those who appear fearless, but those who have befriended their fear, who stand on stages, walk into meetings, step into the unknown, not because they feel invincible, but because they are in communion with something deeper than fear. They are aligned with their purpose, and that alignment becomes the source of their strength. It is not loud, but it is unshakable. This is the inner dialogue of confidence, a constant returning, a daily remembering, a sacred commitment to speak to yourself not as an enemy, but as an ally, to greet each day not with self-judgment, but with self-regard, to walk forward not needing permission, because the only permission that truly matters has already been given, by the self, to the self, in the quiet space where wholeness begins. Success, in its most superficial form, is idolized as conquest, the accumulation of wealth, applause, and outward symbols of triumph. But beneath this facade lies a deeper yearning, a psychological truth often hidden from the conscious mind, the desire to become whole. And wholeness is never achieved by climbing higher, but by descending deeper. The key to enduring success, to authentic self-expression and vitality, lies not in the pursuit of perfection, but in the acceptance and integration of all that we are, including the parts we have rejected, denied, or feared. These exiled parts form what I have called the shadow. It is in the embrace of the shadow that the soul finds the ground upon which true success can stand. The shadow does not live far from us. It lives within us. It is our disowned hunger for recognition, our buried shame, our unspoken rage, our secret pride. It is the part of you that you were told not to be, the child who was too loud, too sensitive, too ambitious, too different. Rather than risk rejection, that child adapted, masked, complied, and in doing so, the psyche split. The persona, The mask presented to the world became dominant, while the shadow was locked away in silence. But the truth is, what we push into the unconscious does not vanish. It festers, and it waits. It influences from the dark, and if we do not meet it willingly, it will rise in symptoms: burnout, sabotage, emptiness, anxiety, disconnection from self. Every step toward success without the shadow is a step taken with a limp. You may arrive at the destination, but you will not recognize yourself when you get there. You will feel like an imposter in your own life because a vital part of you was left behind. What you do not integrate will always be the silent cost of your progress. But when you turn toward the shadow, not as a monster, but as a mirror, you reclaim your energy. You become more than a role. You become real. To integrate the shadow is not to indulge in chaos or license. It is to acknowledge the instincts and truths within you that have gone unloved. The anger that you have feared may hold your deepest boundaries. The arrogance you denied may guard your rightful confidence. The envy you resented may signal your most sacred longing. These emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. They arrive not to shame you, but to guide you. But only if you are willing to see them, to feel them, to welcome them into consciousness. The integration process is alchemical. It transforms what is base into what is gold, but it requires the fire of honesty. The individual must be willing to confront the ego's illusions, to say, I am not only what I appear to be, I am also what I have hidden. This act of confession, not to another, but to the self, is a spiritual right. It is through this inner reckoning that the psyche finds equilibrium. The energies, once split, begin to reunite, and from this union comes a force more powerful than perfection: authenticity. Authenticity is magnetic. It is what draws others, not because it pleases them, but because it resonates. When you stand in your wholeness, success follows not as a prize, but as a reflection. The world responds not to your image, but to your integrity. You're no longer trying to be seen. You are seeing yourself, and in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. The myth of the hero always involves descent into the underworld, into the belly of the whale, into the darkness that guards the treasure. In modern life, this descent is psychological. It is the moment when you stop pretending that achievement alone can satisfy you. It is the day you grow tired of the mask and long for something real. You enter the darkness not to escape life, but to retrieve a part of you that was left there. And when you return, you are changed. You carry the wisdom of your wounds. You lead not from superiority, but from presence. This is the difference between power and control. Control is brittle. Power is grounded. Power knows shadow and does not flinch. Success built on avoidance is fragile. It may look impressive, but it trembles in silence. True success, soulful success, is resilient. It bends, but does not break, because it is rooted in truth. And truth, even when difficult, liberates. It brings coherence to the inner world. It aligns your actions with your essence. It dissolves the division between who you are and who you thought you had to be. To live a successful life, you must first define success on your own terms. And those terms must be informed not just by desire, but by self-knowledge, not just by vision, but by shadow. What do you most fear being seen as? What emotion do you avoid at all costs? What impulse have you disowned? There, in the answers to these questions, lies the gold. It is hidden, not to punish you, but to awaken you. The one who integrates their shadow becomes whole, and the one who is whole becomes unstoppable, not because they are perfect, but because they are at peace. They know their darkness, and so they no longer fear it. They know their depth, and so they no longer chase the surface. They walk into the world not to prove who they are, but to live who they are, fully, honestly, unashamed. And that is the foundation upon which the most meaningful kind of success is born. Each morning holds within it a threshold, a sacred crossing between who you were yesterday and who you are called to become today. And yet, most stumble into the day half awake, consumed by the urgency of the world, before ever making contact with their inner world. The unconscious patterns of anxiety, self-doubt, or disconnection resume before the sun has even reached its full height. We forget that before the world can shape us, we must shape ourselves. This is the profound opportunity that lives in a morning ritual of alignment. Not a mechanical routine, but a conscious communion with the soul. It is a ritual that says, before I give myself to the noise of life, I will return to the quiet of my essence. The morning, psychologically and spiritually, is a liminal space. We emerge from sleep, the realm of dreams, symbols, and unconscious truths, into waking life. The veil is still thin. The subconscious is still open, still receptive, still listening. If ever there were a moment to plant new seeds of thought, to rewrite the script of the self, it is here. But this rewriting cannot come through thought alone. It must come through presence, through repetition, through ritual. The psyche does not change simply because we wish it to. It changes when we offer it new experiences, consistently, reverently, and with emotional sincerity. To align oneself each morning is to affirm your intention not just with words, but with your entire being. It is to turn inward and ask, what energy do I choose to carry into this day? Who must I become, not merely to survive, but to fulfill my deepest potential? These are not abstract questions. They are doorways. The answers may not arise in words, but in images, sensations, or a felt knowing. Your task is not to analyze them, but to receive them, to let them guide you in constructing a rhythm that speaks not just to your goals, but to your soul. Begin with stillness, not because it is fashionable, but because stillness allows you to hear what the ego drowns out. In this stillness, you may observe the thoughts that arise, the ones that say, today will be hard, or you're not ready, or why bother? These voices are not evil. They are echoes of a younger version of you that once needed protection. Acknowledge them, thank them, and then gently introduce a new voice, the voice of choice, the voice of possibility, the voice of the self, not the false self that performs for the world, but the true self that emerges in the absence of fear. As you breathe, let each inhale be a return to life, and each exhale a release of all that no longer serves. As you repeat affirmations, speak them not to impress yourself, but to awaken the part of you that already believes them. I am capable. I am enough. I am willing. Do not rush through these words. Let them settle into the soil of your being. The subconscious mind responds to feeling. Let yourself feel the truth you are declaring, even if only faintly at first. Repetition births resonance, and resonance reshapes identity. Visualization can become a sacred art when practiced from this space of emotional connection. Do not merely imagine your goals, embody them. See yourself acting, speaking, living from a place of confidence and alignment. Feel the emotions you would feel if it were already true. The psyche does not distinguish between what is imagined vividly and what is experienced physically. In this way, you become the architect of your internal reality, and by extension, your external one. Movement, too, can be a prayer. Whether through stretching, walking, or more deliberate motion, the body must be included in this alignment, for the body is the vessel of the unconscious. It holds stories the mind has forgotten. As you move with intention, you awaken not just muscles, but memory. You reconnect with instincts. You restore rhythm. You make the internal shift real. And this is essential because insight without embodiment remains fantasy. But when the insight is breathed, moved, and lived, it becomes transformation. A morning ritual is not about productivity. It is about sovereignty. It is the act of reclaiming the first moments of your day as a declaration. I belong to myself before I belong to the world. This declaration, repeated daily, reorders your inner hierarchy. It places the self, not the roles, not the fears, not the expectations, at the center of your life. From this center, you begin to act not from reactivity, but from rootedness, not from fragmentation, but from alignment. This alignment is the bedrock of lasting confidence and authentic success. For when you begin your day from within, you carry yourself differently. You are no longer chasing validation, but emanating clarity. Challenges do not disappear, but they meet a different version of you. The version that remembers who they are, even in uncertainty. Others feel this. They respond not to your appearance, but to your presence. Because presence cannot be faked. It can only be cultivated. The world will not pause to give you this moment. You must claim it. And in claiming it, you begin to shift not just your schedule, but your sense of self. Each morning becomes a rebirth, a ritual of becoming, not a performance of positivity, but a return to truth, not a detour from the day, but the very foundation upon which your day and your destiny is built. At the close of a sacred inner journey, after we have descended into the subconscious, dialogued with the self, embraced the shadow, and aligned our waking soul, there remains one final act, one vital ritual that seals the transformation. Affirmation. Not the casual repetition of phrases, but the conscious embedding of truth into the deepest layers of the psyche. This is the moment in which the veil between the conscious and unconscious is thinnest, when the emotional soil has been tilled, when the mind is most fertile and receptive. What you say here, in this state of openness, will not merely be heard, it will be recorded. It will become part of the architecture of your identity. But you must understand, the subconscious does not speak in logic. It speaks in symbol, in emotion, in repetition. It is the myth maker within you. It remembers what is felt more than what is said. So when you speak your affirmations, speak them as if your life depends on it. Not because you are trying to become something more, but because you are remembering something eternal, something you once knew and were taught to forget. Each affirmation is a thread that reconnects you to that original wholeness. I am worthy. These are not just words. They are a return to the child who once looked to the world with wonder, who did not question their place in it. I am safe. These are not empty sounds, but healing salve to the nervous system that has long braced for harm. I trust myself. This is not ego. It is restoration. It is the soul re-inhabiting the body it once fled. The self, once fractured by shame or expectation, finds its unity again through repetition, imbued with reverence. Do not wait to feel worthy before you speak your worth. Speak it to call it forth. The subconscious does not need you to believe immediately. It only needs you to feel, to repeat, to stay. Each time you return to these affirmations, you etch a new groove into the mind, and over time, the old voices, the ones shaped by fear, scarcity, rejection, begin to lose their power, not because they are silenced, but because they are outgrown. The final affirmations are not for motivation. They are for reprogramming. They are the ritual through which the soul writes new commandments into the stone of the self. I am here. I am ready. I am whole. Let each word fall, not only on your ears, but into your chest, into your breath, into your very posture. Let your body carry the message your spirit speaks. For once, the subconscious accepts a truth. It begins to shape the outer world to match the inner one. This is not magic. It is psychology in motion, the bridge between the seen and the unseen. And in this final moment, this sacred silence filled with deliberate word and breath, you do not become who you are meant to be. You remember who you have always been. So repeat slowly, I am not a product of circumstance. I am a force of consciousness. I create from the silence within me. My confidence is not learned. It is remembered. Success is not something I get. It is something I release from within. This moment is sacred. This life is mine.